I'm gonna admit that this is gonna be a tough fight regarding his style, but it's not like when I was preparing to a Stipe fight. I'm like, you better don't let him touch your leg, all those stuff. So going on to the next second fight, I know with Stipe, I know that he's tough. He might need more than one punch to go to sleep, but Ciryl doesn't have the same chin. As far as the interim title, I do not care about that. I didn't care about that. I knew he was a joke, and he is still a joke.
What's good, family? Smash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. So we just heard there from your man's UFC heavyweight champion, Francis Ngannou, punking the life out of Ciryl Gane. Now listen, I can't lie, I love Ciryl Gane, and I actually think that learning more about Francis recently, how Francis has done his old trainer, I actually hope Ciryl Gane wins. That said, you might know I don't really follow UFC on this channel, but for the big fights, I like to put a few words in when it's relevant, when it's needed. And these bars from Francis, they was fire bars, yeah? He said, listen, Ciryl is a joke, and his trainer can't help him. And the thing is, he ain't like Stipe. Stipe, I had to worry about things, but Stipe might be able to take one or two shots. Ciryl, he ain't got the chin for it. That was peak, man. That was peak. That was the kind of trash talk Francis just put out, yeah. That was actually the deepest trash talk. For example, we hear Conor McTapper. He often says, he talks in hyperbole, yeah. He just says massive things and they don't really mean much. But when someone sits there, yeah, and breaks it down like that, that's my favourite type of trash talk. When someone sits there and says, listen, the truth is, when I was preparing for Stipe Miocic, we had serious conversations about takedown and whatever else and how to knock him out. But for Ciryl, he ain't got the chin for them kind of conversations. Yeah, Ciryl doesn't have the chin to warrant me having serious strategic conversations. However, like I said, on a serious note, tactically speaking, I can't lie. Francis's old trainer, who now trains Ciryl, has essentially said that, exposed the fact that Francis is very arrogant, and he's played around with the old trainer a lot. Yeah, after he lost to Stipe the first time he came back, then he started winning again and he went. So that for me is a bit fake. I don't get, and that's where one place, whilst me and Conor McTapper fell out, that's one area I do rate Conor McTapper. He never went brand new. Yeah, a lot of people, they come up in Ireland or Africa or France or whatever, and they get successful, and then they want to leave and run off to one of these American gyms. And that's one thing Conor McTapper always said. He ain't running off to no funny style USA gym. Francis ran off again. I just think that shows a weak, that's a weak character. I don't rate that. It's fake. That said, I mean, it's the fight game, and ultimately Francis has the right to do what he wants. However, we're talking about personality characteristics here, and why that's relevant is, well, I have to admit, I have noticed some similarities to the old days. Yeah, after Francis lost to Stipe, he went for a period of really working hard and being dedicated, and he didn't seem as cocky. Before that first Stipe fight, yeah, he was gassed, wasn't he? Super gassed. And he went in there and got mauled, or got half mauled. And I'm getting them vibes again. And I mean, you heard the words there about how Ciryl can't take a shot. Now, allegedly in sparring, Francis put him down. And that's where Francis is getting these bars from. Francis is saying, listen, I've sparred you and you couldn't hold a shot, so I haven't got no worries about you. But like I said, what worries me is, I mean, historically speaking, these fighters who are good at being bullies, like Mike Tyson and whatnot, what happens when they end up in a fight like Buster Douglas? Now, to be fair, Ciryl Gane ain't no Buster Douglas. Ciryl Gane is a serious unit in his own right, which makes it even more worrying for Francis. If Mike Tyson can come undone against a random dude like Buster Douglas, and that was mainly because of underestimating his opponent, thinking it was easy work. Ciryl Gane has the technical proficiency miles above Buster Douglas did. And still, we saw how devastating it was for Mike Tyson to underestimate. Even though the opponent, Buster Douglas, wasn't as technically gifted, it didn't matter. Yeah? Now Francis, I don't believe. People are talking about how the gulf between Francis and Ciryl Gane is massive. I'm not so sure. I think they're pretty similar. In as much as, yeah, Francis may have the out-and-out power advantage, but technically speaking, in terms of skills and technique, Francis is quite stiff, yeah? And it's all... I mean, we've never seen a heavyweight like Ciryl before, who can dance around and whatnot. Now, I'm not going to make out... Don't get me wrong, it's a bit fruity, but the point is, he's much more looser. What happens to Francis if Ciryl Gane gets out of the first few rounds? Now, the way Francis is talking is as if it's not going to get out of the first few rounds. But again, we've seen how that story ends. Look at the first Stipe fight. The first Stipe fight, Francis thought it was all easy. I'm going to knock him out in the first 2 rounds. Next thing you know, Francis is gassed out, blowing out of his arse. And that cockiness from Francis, all I'm saying is, Francis historically has performed better. Look at the Stipe rematch. Yeah, Francis he wasn't gassed, was he? I don't even think he was, that's the thing, I don't even think Francis was talking about KOs before the Stipe fight. He was just talking about having a good and hard fight. That's what you should be doing. Now maybe the first Stipe fight was just bad luck, and maybe now Francis Ngannou's turned a leaf where he can trash talk and perform. I don't know, I just get this air of arrogance. I like it. I like the words he's saying, but I mean more deeper, more fundamentally. I've got a bad feeling. Potentially he's undertrained, Francis, thinking it's going to be easy, and I think, again, psychologically, he's undercooked. I think he may think he's going to go in there and just touch Ciryl, and Cyryl's going to be done. And let's not forget, people, Ciryl was able to do something Francis couldn't. Don't forget that fight against Derek Lewis where Francis put on a stinker. Francis had a stinker against Derek Lewis. Your man Ciryl knocked the guy out. Do you understand? He ain't no joke. He really ain't. And I actually think, yeah, bear in mind, Stipe Miocic is a different test than Ciryl. Yeah, Stipe, it's all wrestling. That's the risk. I don't believe Stipe was never a risk on the feet, in my opinion. Not to Ngannou. That was never the risk. So Francis didn't have to worry about anything apart from getting taken down and getting hugged to death. This Ciryl Gane fight is a completely different ball game. Yeah? Part of the reason that Francis versus Derek Lewis fight was so boring was because Francis was scared to commit. And that was Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is nowhere near Cyryl's level. So the fact that Francis is so gassed, I just don't think it's going to end well for him. Now, of course, we know if Francis catches anyone in them 4-ounce gloves, it's going to be night-night. But I just think it can work both ways. Again, we've seen how Ciryl picked apart Derek Lewis. He's very tricky for a heavyweight. And if Francis goes in there and is loading up them big shots, this ain't no Stipe. Stipe's, yeah, he's decent. He's a decent all-round fighter, but Stipe ain't got the kickboxing and the hand striking ability of Gane. Gane's a lot cuter than Stipe on the feet. I don't think them big looping shots are going to be as effective. You can hit people or you can hit wrestlers like Stipe with them shots. Ciryl Gane counters. It's a much higher level, and so far, is Francis one of the heaviest hitting men on the planet? Absolutely, but them big looping shots, I mean, the jury's out for me if he's going to land them. And what happens when he starts taking a few back himself? And that's one thing we have to seriously consider, yeah? When has Francis actually taken some shots himself? When has Francis actually pushed through in a hard striking fight? Yeah? Being wrestled is one thing. Being wrestled against Stipe is one thing. Being touched in the striking department's a whole different ball game. especially if you run out of gas. Look at McTapper. McTapper was one of the most ferocious strikers. Next thing you know, he's in there shooting for the legs against Nate Diaz because he's gassed. Cardio makes mice of all men. So either way, for me, yeah, this is a super interesting fight. And really, historically speaking, I think this is probably the biggest heavyweight fight. Now, the numbers, of course, Brock Lesnar had the whole WWE thing going on. But in terms of the numbers, or in terms of the hype and the actual quality, certainly as far as striking goes, probably, yeah, in terms of excitement and in terms of striking level, this is the highest striking level heavyweight match we've ever seen. Because historically speaking, the heavyweights have been dominated by wrestlers. This is the first time we're seeing the UFC heavyweight division dominated by out-and-out strikers. Both men really can't wrestle a lick. Yeah? Pure striking. And that's really where the action is. And this fight could do crazy pay-per-views, because really, I don't really watch UFC. This is one of the few fights I actually watch, which shows you what the casuals are thinking. But it's going to be exciting either way. Personally, I hope Ciryl wins. I think Francis needs to be taken back to planet Earth again. Don't get me wrong, he's a nice guy. He's not overtly arrogant. I just got some weird feelings. And also, I like Ciryl. He's super down to earth, super zen is what I'd call it. He reminds me in a way of Thug Rose. I'm not sure what the parallels are, but to some extent, he reminds me of a Thug Rose kind of character. Extremely humble and just, you know what I'm saying? One of them ones. I think he deserves it. And hearing about Francis's past, I don't know, it just turned me off a bit to him. Francis himself is very smiley, but to hear that he's left and he went back and it's all a bit, I don't know, I don't like it. That turns me off. I like people who are loyal and they pay it back. I think Ciryl deserves this one, but listen, end of the day, it's a sport. Yeah, if Francis takes his head off, fair play to him. And congratulations. Either way, as a neutral fan, I'm just going to sit there and sip the tea, no doubt.